Thanks for joining me in part 3 of my series on how to eat healthy on a budget. If you haven't checked out my other 2 videos prior to this, basically this series goes over the dietary guidelines for Americans, and I follow it for a month and I see how much does it actually cost to eat healthy. Can I eat this way for under $200 per month? Now, in the first video, I reviewed what the dietary guidelines are and how to convert them to a list of foods that you need to eat every month to meet the criteria. In the second video prior to this, I turned that into a meal plan, so we saw exactly what I ate. Now, in this video, I'm going to go over my the shopping. So I'm going to take you through the grocery store, right? Through some pictures I have off screen here. We'll cut to a screenshot and I'll show you how I navigated the grocery store and what I bought, and then I also have some photos of some of the meals. Real quick here on the screen, we have a copy of my daily meal plan. So for breakfast, I'm having oatmeal, banana, peanut butter, milk, and an egg. Obviously, I didn't have any milk or egg, so mine was a little bit different than this, but for the most part, it's pretty much spot on. For lunch, I'm having some rice, some beans, some vegetables, another piece of fruit for my 2 fruits for the day, and then some milk. And then for dinner, I do brown rice, tofu, more vegetables, another glass of milk, and then I have olive oil and Oreos down here, only because, again, the guidelines want you to have it allows for additional calories from fat and from added sugars or added free calories, if you will. So I am including this in the meal plan, and I'm including this in the price of the meal plan because I want this to reflect what the average person is going to eat in a day. Now that's, again, I didn't have any milk, I didn't have any eggs, and I'm certainly not eating Oreos every day, but I want this to be more of a representation of the guidelines and not so much my personal preference on food. When we walk into the grocery store, the first section is going to be the produce section. Now, the dietary guidelines just say 2 cup equivalents per day for me for fruit. So I just rounded that to 2 fruits per day. Now, I happen to have chosen the 2 most readily available and inexpensive fruits out there, which is bananas and apples. Now remember, part of the guidelines for me was I can only shop at either Walmart or like a Safeway, Albertsons, like just a generic grocery store. I'm not going to the a special natural food store. This is just everything has to be procured at a major national brand store. So fruits come in all different prices, and depending on your food allergies and what you like, you can choose, but I typically go for $2 a pound or less. Now let's talk about vegetables. Now, the vegetables is actually very interesting because unlike fruits, the dietary guidelines have subgroups for the vegetables, and those subgroups are your dark leafy greens, your red oranges, your starchy, your other, and then also your beans. What I did for the pricing, and I'll talk about this in the next presentation too, is I just averaged the price of all of the vegetables and came up with a generic number based on servings so that when we look at the price, how much does it actually cost to eat healthy, you're not limited in the vegetables that you can select because I averaged the cost of every single vegetable in the produce section. So that allows you to pick and choose what you like without feeling like, oh, I can only have onions and mushrooms for the whole month because those are cheap. In fact, mushrooms are actually quite expensive. But one of the things that will drive the cost up when you shop is food waste. So there's 2 kinds of food waste. There's food waste when you're preparing vegetables, such as peeling carrots or chopping the bottom off of broccoli. And there's also food waste when after you've prepared it in food spoilage and throwing out food that's gone bad because you didn't eat it quick enough. And that's why I chose to get most of my vegetables in frozen form, because this frozen blend right here, although it's not organic, it is non-GMO, and it came out to about $1.44 a pound, and that's fully prepped. I mean, this stuff is great. You're never going to waste frozen vegetables. They're already prepped. You just pull them out. They're easy to make, and they never go bad, and you can buy them and use them as you need them. So I really love the convenience of frozen vegetables. And the nice part about this is you're getting your cruciferous vegetables, which the dietary guidelines don't require cruciferous vegetables per se, but those are very anti-cancer. They reduce your risk for colon cancer. So I try and have broccoli, which is a cruciferous vegetable, every single day. But broccoli also counts under the other vegetable category. So you get the other vegetable category done, and you get your red orange vegetable done. So it takes care of two of the categories right off the bat. And then I also picked up some kale and some Swiss chard, which comes out to about $2 a bunch. And it's a little bit more expensive per pound, but that'll take care of your dark leafy greens. And then for starches, I just did potatoes. Potatoes are super inexpensive, so potatoes are a great way to get your starchy vegetable down. And then, of course, I did beans. Now, in the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about peanut butter. So when now we've moved into the aisles of the grocery store, and this is where things can get a little complicated because we have to do a little bit more label reading. And what I'm referring to specifically is this price label here. Remember how I talked about the $2 per pound or less for vegetables? When I go grocery shopping and I'm looking at these labels here, what I specifically look for is down here in the bottom right corner, it gives you the price per ounce. I just pick the lowest one, and that will make sure that you get the cheapest product. Now, I could have gone cheaper on some of these items like peanut butter, but when I was reading here's just a zoomed up version. This is 25 cents an ounce. When I'm reading the labels on some of these, what I noticed, is it had sugar, hydrogenated vegetable oils, salt, molasses, palm oil. And for me, I don't want to eat all that junk. I just want straight peanuts. So I ended up actually getting this organic, unsalted peanut butter. Even though it's a little bit more expensive, I decided for me, it's a better spend of my money, assuming you have it in your budget, to buy something that doesn't have all that added junk in it. This is another one, dry roasted peanuts, dry roasted organic peanuts and sea salt. That's it. And the sodium's not that high, 105 for 2 tablespoons. And I'm having about 1 large tablespoon per day average. So it comes out to under 100 milligrams per serving for the peanut butter. So that's what I chose, is this product here, not this store brand that has a bunch of extra stuff in it. Now, like I promised, beans count as both a vegetable and a protein, not simultaneously, but you need about 5.5 cup equivalents per week. And so I actually get dry beans. I have an Instapot. I do the pressure cooker. And for the beans are really, really cheap. These came out to like 69 cents a bag, and the bag's a pound, and it's going to triple in weight. So even though you're paying 69 cents, you're actually only paying about 20 or 30 cents a pound cooked for these products. So they're very, very inexpensive compared to, say, vegetables or tofu. And that's really nice because you make what you need and they're not going to go to waste. You can get them in the can, and you can price out the canned products the same way I priced out the peanut butter, but this is what I bought for the beans, is just these dried beans. And I really like this 16 bean soup mix because that gives you variety. When we're talking about health and improving our immune system and fighting off disease, having a variety of foods in our diet is going to be one of the most important things for disease prevention. For the rice, I just chose some plain long grain brown rice, and that 5-pound bag was only a few bucks, and I have the actual price here that we'll go over later. Cups dry, so cost per pound was 75 cents for the rice, and this is a 5-pound bag, so $3.75 for this bag of rice. And again, it's going to double, triple in weight and volume when you cook it. And this is easy to prepare in the Instapot again, or a rice cooker, or on the stove. And it's readily available, and it's one of the cheapest sources. Now, you don't have to necessarily do rice, but we need grains. We need whole grains. Remember, we need like 9.5 cup equivalent or ounce equivalents per day of grains, and getting your grains through rice is the cheapest way, period. Now, you can do bread, and this is in sort of my deluxe version of my meal plan. Is I had some money left over, and so where am I going to spend that money? I love bread, so I bought some bread. This is a really nice product. It's 100% whole wheat is what I look for on the front, and 2 loaves for $5 is pretty cheap. I mean, $2.50 a loaf is really cheap. So if you do want to expand beyond just brown rice, there's tortillas and quinoa and bread, and this is just one way or one other option. Now let's look at some meals here real quick and then wrap up. This video is getting kind of long. So here we have some oatmeal. This is my breakfast. I have 1 large tablespoon of peanut butter. This is just one example at work. I have my fruit. I added some raisins. Again, it's added in addition to the base cost. So that would actually take care of both fruits for the day if you didn't want to do an apple, but raisins are more expensive than apples. But basically, my breakfast every morning is peanut butter, my banana, and my oatmeal with some cinnamon, and then you can, add a splash of milk or something if you want. For dinner the first night, my fiance was so generous in making some tofu, and you know that on my list, I have to have tofu for dinner as a soy. So part of the protein requirement, one of the subgroups for protein is soy. And so she made this delicious coleslaw dish, which is sort of pictured over here. It's a coleslaw dish with cabbage and carrots and things like that. Oh, and then I had some brown rice again. That's also not pictured here. This would be another example. So here under the beans, I have my bean mix that I made. I have some brown rice and I have some vegetables. This would be a perfect example that would meet the criteria for the meal plan. This is another example. I have more beans, more rice, 2 cups of vegetables. Same thing. Here I have a tortilla, 2 cups of vegetables, and to starch my potato. This is another example here. I have some whole wheat pasta. I made some homemade Alfredo sauce, vegan Alfredo sauce. We have 2 cups of vegetables. So I have my grain, which is the noodles. I have the sauce I actually made from tofu. So that's my soy, my protein, and then I have my 2 vegetables. Here for lunch, this is another example. I have 2 vegetables, my beans, a fruit, which is the banana. I have some beans, which is my protein, hummus, and some brown rice. So that kind of wraps up what the meal plan looked like and how I shopped for it. Again, the brown rice, really cheap. The beans, really cheap. Dried beans, dried rice. I picked the cheapest fruits that I could. I did a selection of variety for the vegetables, but I aimed for around $2 to $3 a pound for fresh vegetables, no more than that or else you'll go over the budget, more likely than not. And then I also perused the frozen section, get all the stuff that's on sale, that's marked down, half off, and I look for the cheapest per pound or the cheapest per ounce that will include another vegetable and your red, orange vegetable. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful, and I'm going to jump right ahead and make the next video, which is going to be the budget. I'm going to go over the whole cost for all this, and you're going to see what the base cost is to eat healthy, and then my cost, because you also saw some foods on here that I didn't have in the original meal plan. So we'll talk about how much my budget was, did I stick to the $200 a month or less, and what the base budget is for the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. Thanks for watching. Cheers.